More than 65 million years ago, a huge meteorite 10 kilometers in diameter traveled by Earth at a tremendous speed. Its destination? The peninsula which is today called Yucatan in Mexico. The huge meteorite called Chicxulub travels by and Earth comes in its way. At that time, our planet looked very different from what it is now. Dinosaurs were the masters of this planet, but these enormous creatures do not know that this meteorite impact will leave a crater 180 kilometers in diameter and will result in a winter impossible for their survival. The impact was tremendous. The meteorite caused a tsunami which encircled the globe several times, with waves calculated to have been 200 meters high. A huge cloud of dust rose up into the upper layers of the atmosphere, blocking sunlight for several months. The extraordinary landscape of this part of Mexico, characterized in part by the absence of mountain chains, is largely a result of this meteorite impact. The consequence of that collision is also reflected in the topography of the coastal areas of Yucatan, where thousands of years of evolution has given rise to an extensive coral reef. The shallowness of the sea allows light to reach the bottom, thus creating in these coral reefs a habitat rich in biodiversity. The Yucatan Peninsula is a chalky platform. The materials and sediment found here date back to a sea in the Cretaceous period. Millions of years after the meteorite impact, we see fractures in the stone limestone forming the perimeter of this gigantic crater. This has led to the creation of a ring of underground caverns formed by the erosion of buried limestone. These have filled with rainwater, giving rise to a maze of caves, caverns, and underground rivers with entrances called cenotes, sinkholes. There are more than 7,000 sinkholes and caves in the Yucatan Peninsula, many of them interconnected, like the underground rivers Sac Actun and Ox Bayalha. This formation, more than 182 kilometers long, is recognized as the longest cave in Mexico and the 9th longest on Earth. We are now in Yucatan at the entry of the Iqquil sinkhole. These sinkholes have filled with water, forming pools with geological formations of imposing beauty. In the Mayan language, these places are known as Jonnot, a word that means abyss or pool of water. The ancients believed that the god Chak, giver of life and god of rain, lived deep in the abyss. When they faced the threat of drought or war, the Maya sacrificed a woman or a young man to their god after an elaborate ritual which often included cutting out their skin and heart, and were thrown deep into the pool. We can imagine the terror of those men and women as they descended into the world of the dead, the Xibalba. Diving into this pool, we travel, if not to another world, to another time. In Yucatan, the landscape has continued to change, but this time by man's hand. Near the sinkholes, we come across several haciendas, mansions of plantations, constructed during the boom in henequen cultivation. The cultivation of henequen, called qui in Mayan, flourished up to the end of the 19th century. Many people became very wealthy when Yucatan was the prime producer of this fiber, exported all over the world. Moving past the haciendas on the so-called white paths, we come across the sinkholes Zitnu, Shkekken, and Samula. Their narrow entrances lead us into imposing vaults decorated by stalactites of awe-inspiring beauty. Returning to our world, to our time, we can explore this deep pool just as the Mayans did. Just look at this splendid formation to understand the reverence felt by the ancients for these sacred spaces. Just imagine, most of the structures within the sinkholes remain unexplored to this day. In the words of an expert cave diver, it's like the dark side of the moon. Nobody knows what's down there. Remember these sinkholes if you get an opportunity to travel to Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Maybe, as the Mayans believed, the god Chak awaits us in the depths of the cenotes, waiting to take us to another world.